Good afternoon, everyone. We're back here on the Steve Ballance Show. I'm Johnny Mack, and we got Coach here for just a variety of questions on episode 2 of the Steve Ballance Show. So,
Afternoon, Johnny.
yeah, nice to see you. All right, so we'll just start it off here. Why do you like coaching your 14 U team over any other age group?
It's a tough question. It's been a great group of guys this year. You know, we started with a lot of them in the fall, and to be able to be with them this summer and having the success that we're having, I think we're just a few wins away from breaking the dig-in record for most wins in a season. The truth of the matter is I was really a little reluctant. I had always coached the older guys, and even with dig-in, I always had the showcase team, basically 17, 18U since the beginning. And Coach Frazier and I just sat down almost a year ago, a little over a year ago, maybe actually around this time last year. And we just talked about how we really like some of the things that we have going in the middle school into the early high school range. And he actually said, would you consider, maybe dropping down to the 14U and we're in that same age group area together. And I was reluctant, but I decided to do it, and I'm really glad that it's been great. The kids and the families have been awesome. We've had a lot of success. I feel like they're learning a lot. We're getting a lot of rewards on the field, because you know how it is as a former player of mine. It's winning isn't the end of the world, the end all be all. But if you're winning, you're learning a lot more. You're having a lot more fun, and everybody's experience is going along. So it's been great. But I don't really have one reason, but I'm really thankful and happy that I've done it.
So with that 14 team, you guys got a tournament this weekend, followed up by the big Fort Myers that I heard you're going down to, right?
Yeah, we're in your stomping grounds of Howard County, and where I coach high school ball at, and we're there for the Howard HCYP Raiders are putting on an event. We have a lot of our teams that are in that this weekend. Myself and Coach Frazier's team are actually playing in the same 14U event, which would be pretty cool. We haven't done anything like that all year. Coach Brenneman and Coach Ryer's 15U team is in that event this weekend, and it's just going to be a fun weekend. Weekend of baseball for July. Hopefully, all the teams play well. And we have other teams in the program that are playing this weekend. Another big weekend, like it is every weekend of games going on. And like you said, Fort Myers, I'm so excited. That was a team that you used to play on for me when we were all in the showcase team together. I think it's almost a year ago to the day where you pitched against Chicago Elite Training, and you pitched a really good game in a midweek game in the pool play when we won the perfect game pool. And that's a big reason why the showcase team is ranked in the top 200 in the country right now, is because of everything that was happened last summer. So really looking forward to that, to be able to help Coach Swat. Coach Swat's done a great job with that group, taking over from when I had it. And I mean, he's the right guy for that job and doing phenomenal. And I'm glad to go down there and help out the team next week. I love going to Fort Myers for any reason. I love doing anything perfect game related. And I'm really excited to go down there on Monday for the first half of that week and go down there. We have a really tough schedule, as it always will be down there. And it'll be a good opportunity for guys to showcase what they can do and see what happens. But super excited about that.
So if you go down to Fort Myers and coaching the showcase team again, and when you have a variety of different age groups, do you manage games differently when you have different age kids?
Yeah, I would say when you look at it in the confines of like dig in, like when I used to coach the showcase team, for example, you would coach the games a little bit differently. You're trying more to get them exposure. You're trying to showcase what they can do. So you might not be bunting in certain situations. You might not even be stealing in certain situations because you want the college coach or somebody to be able to see them hitting with runners in scoring position, different things. You might actually attempt a drag bunt or something because you want them to be able to see that how they can handle the bat and show some speed or whatnot. And most of the other teams, when you're in all those play-to-win scenarios, and like you're saying, Fort Myers is obviously a play-to-win scenario, so you're straight up with how you're going about the game. Younger guys, your strategy can be a little bit different because of pitch counts. You don't want their pitch counts to get up too high. You don't want them to be in too many high-stress situations, so you might go to another pitcher, or you have your pool play and how you're playing it. So I think you definitely coach the games differently based off of the ages, based off of what's going on, according to your personnel. Just like in a high school or college game, as you're coaching it, you're going to coach those differently. So yeah, I definitely think I coach the games differently based on what it would be.
So also when you're coaching showcase, what would you say the first thing that college scouts really look for when they show up to the field and start looking at these players?
Personally, as a former college coach and talking to some different guys, I've said it before and you've probably heard it, I think it's before the game even starts. in the pregame. College coaches tend to not just show up right at first pitch. So they're out there before. They're watching what you're doing in the batting cage, right? They're looking at your attire, as crazy as that might sound. They're seeing, are you the guy that's got your turfs on in the batting cage, or are you out there hitting in what the kids now call their slides or whatever? You know what I mean? Are you out there stretching? Are you out there fooling around? Are you focused? What are you doing? One thing that we talk about at practice all the time with the older guys is we should be able to know what your primary position is by how you're warming up. So people are already seeing stuff before you go out there, because it's part of, just like they look at your transcripts for your grades, it's all an extension of that. They see, do you want to play baseball? Are you out there? And you go through that before the game even starts. I think a lot of guys don't value the before the game things that college is already sitting there. I mean, if he's sitting back there, if you got 12 coaches behind in the third row at, let's say, Mount St. Mary's or whatnot, I mean, I think they're already looking at what's going on, or else why would they be sitting down there looking around and seeing who's in the bullpen, watching how the guy goes through his warm-up. And it's all, something that is all part of the process. It's the stuff that goes on the field. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Everybody knows, right? You're looking at actions, you're seeing bat speed, exit velocity, just whether you're measuring it or the eye test. All that I think people can understand, but I think it's some of the nuances that go on even before the game or around it that a lot of people wouldn't think is a part of it.
Mm-hmm. So from a former player perspective, I just remember how valuable practice always were. So can you just tell me how important practices are to you? And
yeah, I'm a broken record with this, and I probably said it before, but I'll continue to say it for as long as I feel like it, is the practices are everything. I just think baseball is a sport that the better you practice, the more you practice, the more quality of your practices, the better you can be. Whether you're below average player, average, good, all that is great. It's just going to take you to another step through your career. It's going to help develop a work ethic. I mean, some guys, depending on how old you are, how do you know how to develop a work ethic? I think you start learning some of that by what you see at practice. So yeah, I mean, it's playing high school ball for me, playing some for Dig In. I think you see the same thing. You understand how the practices are, and I think you would understand that most of your teammates, maybe yourself, got to where they were because of practices. I mean, just that's at the top. If it's Coach Wooten, Wooten's pyramid, I mean, practice is at the very top of it. The way I look at it is how it goes.
Mm-hmm. So I also remember practices. You always encourage us to use wood bats. So what's the logic behind that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started doing that when I was a college coach. So that goes back to around the 2007-ish area. And it was one of those things where I was like, guys are hitting with the metal, guys look fine, but we need to find ways to become better hitters that are an extension of just what you would call drill work, technique, and just different, values of a hitter. And I thought in my mind, if you're hitting with a wood bat, you're not trying to jack balls over the fence. You're not trying to do all this, crazy nonsensical stuff, right? You're just trying to square the ball up with a wood bat. Well, wood bat, you have a smaller sweet spot, and you have to hit it square to get any kind of results. So I just think by talking about it or not, a hitter is forced to have to really hone in on what he's doing to swing with the wood. He's not trying to on BP on the field say, I'm trying to hit 15 over the fence today or things like that. And I think that when I saw the results immediately with what that was doing for our players at the collegiate level, we've been doing it ever since. So like the varsity teams in high school, we do that. Some of the guys in here, we embrace it when you do lessons and whatnot. I just really, really believe everything inside of me that training with a wood bat, especially age-specific and appropriate, really makes you a better hitter. It's an extension of everything else you're doing. And the guys that do it, I think you see the results. I think the results overwhelmingly speak for themselves with that.
Yeah, so again, from a former player perspective, you used to always talk about how much you pride toughness over anything else. Why is that?
A big reason is because, unfortunately, in 2017, with where we're at now, you don't have a lot of quote-unquote tough baseball players. Mm-hmm. When you see a tough baseball player, it's recognizable. It's almost like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing this. And I think baseball is a sport where if you have that toughness, you have that grit, that grind kind of mentality, you can really become a better baseball player, because there is so many things that can affect you adversely in baseball. When you look at, from the mental things to, I just hit a rope to shortstop and he makes a diving catch, or I can't believe that guy caught that, or the umpire made a call I didn't really like, or I thought that was a poor interpretation. There's so much that can happen in baseball where if you're not tough, what do you have? And I'm talking about mental and physical toughness. I value that so much because the guys that are tough, you see how they can overcome and handle any aspect of the game. And it's to me another attribute that goes an extension of your ability as a player and what you can learn. If you also have that kind of mental and physical toughness, you're going to be a guy that's going to be willing to do the extra work and do things. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's real simple why you value it more than anything. And I continue to put more and more of an emphasis and value on it because you start seeing it less and less. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's another way to separate yourself from a player perspective.
Okay. So I know during the high school season we have practice about every day and games and whatnot. So how do you balance time with around dig-in as during the high school season?
It can be tough. I mean, during the high school season, my priority is the high school team. So it's, but a lot of times you'll be out there practicing, 2.5 hours every day at the high school. And then if I have something dig-in related, I come in to dig in, do lessons, practice with other dig-in teams, what's going on. I mean, as you know, this is my life. Baseball that's what I do. That's what I feel fortunate I was put on this earth to do. And it's really the main thing I care about. So for me, it's not really a work or a chore because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being around all the different players and coaches. But it can be definitely a juggling act. The March area to, hopefully the end of May every year is definitely a very tough time, those 3 months to do both. But, I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
So staying on like the high school kind of page here, with the new pitching rule, what are your just like thoughts on that, on restricting pitchers to a certain amount of pitches? Because I know the team actually had a kid threw the most innings in the county this year.
Yeah, it was funny. I read that in the Howard County Times at the end of the year, and I saw that you ended up throwing the most innings of anybody in the county, which I would have been surprised by that actually. But I love the rule. I love the new rule. I think it's another thing in a positive way for high school baseball in Maryland, where it puts an emphasis on an even playing field, where a guy's only going to be able to throw X amount of pitches per day, over the course of a window of time throughout the week. And I love it. I just think it puts an even playing field on it. I think for somebody like us and myself who understand how pitching works, understanding the pitch counts, the values of it, you're able to work some other guys in there, the rest. I think some of it's common sense, to be honest with you, but I'm glad that the state association did that and other states have done that because it really helps protect the players. So I could not be more for that rule.
Okay. So a couple questions ago, you mentioned that baseball is pretty much your life. So I know you played multiple sports in high school. What ultimately made you choose baseball over your other sports?
Baseball was actually the second sport I started playing. I actually started playing soccer a year before I started playing baseball. And then I got into basketball organized just a couple years after I got into baseball. There was just something about baseball that I liked that it gave to me. I remember going to baseball games, the Orioles, when I was really young. I remember fond memories of that. Baseball was just something that, sometimes you don't even know why you just fall in love with something, but you did. I was fortunate enough at a high level throughout all the way up through high school. Could have played collegiately all three. I really enjoyed soccer. I really enjoyed basketball. I really enjoyed baseball. Those were the three sports that I really played my whole life organized, as a team all the time. But baseball just gave me something. Yeah, I love the hit. I love the pitch. I love to play defense, catch, base running. It was a thinking man's game. Just everything about baseball. There's not one thing about baseball where it's like, I wish this wasn't part of it. And I just got that bug, as they say, at a really early age and just never went away. And it grows all the time, so it's kind of scary. But, it's really no real one thing. I just really loved the game and always embraced being a part of it.
Yeah, so I know you've been coaching since about like year 19, right? So since then, what do you think makes just an overall good coach?
It sounds crazy to say because I am a coach, but I think coaching anything, not just baseball, could be any sport or whatever it is. I think coaching is one of the hardest things in the world to do. I think the guys that do it really, really well, maybe they make it look easy, but it's really difficult. I think what makes a good coach first and foremost is, yes, you need to have knowledge of that said game, in this case baseball. I think if you have the knowledge of the game, it helps. I think if you played it at a high level, it can help. But it doesn't mean the end-all be-all. There's guys that played at a high level that couldn't coach at all. There's guys that never even played the game that can coach it. I think having knowledge of the game is important. I think being able to communicate with your players and other coaches is huge. If you can't communicate things, what's it matter? I think being able to understand your players, what makes them tick, is important. I think a thing that is that shouldn't be overrated, but it is the managing of the game, the strategy within the game, the managing of each game, understanding the big picture. What are you trying to do there on that day? Motivation is key. I mean, you can't just assume that guys are going to be motivated every single day to practice or play the game. So there are, again, I think I've said this in episode 1, but there is so many factors into coaching. I think a big thing that helps the coaching, if you're organized as well. You really pay attention to detail. You do a lot more than just the time that you're on the field. What are you doing when you're behind the scenes, away from the field? In this case, like, what would I be doing in the office, or what would I be doing to better myself, and things like that. Coaching, to me, if you do it well and you're good at it, it's a never-ending process. You are constantly trying to get better. You are constantly trying to learn. You are constantly trying to do things to help your players and your fellow coaches if you're a head coach. And to me, it's just such a unique thing that many jobs or many things in this world can't give you that coaching does. I could talk about that topic. That could be a whole episode, John. I could talk about that all day. I mean, that's a great question. That's unbelievable.
So you mentioned communication and motivation. How important is team chemistry to you on each team?
I think team chemistry is important. Let me start by saying that. I think some people overvalue that and some people undervalue that. I think it's very important. If you have the second baseman and shortstop, they either are friends, have a mutual respect for each other. I think that helps. I think the pitcher-catcher combination. I think there's a lot. Team chemistry is definitely important, but I wouldn't put it at the top of the pedestal and I wouldn't put it at the bottom. I think a lot of your better teams are going to get along. They're going to do some things, and I think as a coach, you can create an environment that fosters that. And I'd like to think that we do that here. And I know for my case, I'm real big on that in a subliminal way of doing that with the high school teams, with the dig-in teams that I'm around. Because I think if you're a coach and you foster that, I think it does help.
All right. Well, to end the episode, would you like to have a little fun?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Whatever. Let's see what you got.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of a number 1 to 5,000, and I had written down a number before the episode started.
Okay.
So if you could write the number you're thinking.
So you want me on the whiteboard to write a number?
And we'll see if it matches.
Okay. Well, for me, it's pretty simple. Number 2.
All right. Signing off from episode 2. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Johnny. Have a good one.
You too.